20% of the population has like an inappropriate immune response to mold and it has a very adverse effect on their health.
That was Dr. Robert Sparling, a recognized expert in the treatment of mold diseases. Dr. Sparling and his family suffered from a number of symptoms.
Years ago, I had a water problem in my house, did not remediate properly at the time, in which case I found out 3 years later that I had developed a significant mold issue in my house, which was associated with chronic health issues that I had developed and my family. One of the most obvious things that I was dealing with was a chronic sinusitis. And we call it eosinophilic fungal rhinosinusitis. And really it's a sinus condition that's chronic. No matter what you do with the standard measures to alleviate it and correct it, it continues to come back. Other common finding would be a chronic bronchitis or something like that. Those are very common things that you would observe with prolonged experience to mold.
So let's talk about mold. We get many phone calls from concerned homeowners that are convinced that they have a mold problem. What they don't understand is that the human eye or the human nose can never be 100% sure that it's looking at or smelling mold. The only way to be 100% sure is with mold testing.
The first thing that anyone should do, of course, is to contact somebody like a reputable company like HealthyWay and Robert Lanfranc, have them come in, do an assessment. Are you exposed?
One of the biggest issues homeowners face is procrastination, hoping things will get better by themselves.
If you allow those systems that are major health-related systems that are involved in providing immune response and your endocrine system, which has a major impact on your neurological system, of course, if you allow yourself to be exposed to this, there's much documentation that talks about the toxic effects, especially of certain kinds of mold, Stachybotrys mold, which is sometimes referred to as the black mold, and then there's Aspergillus. These are documented very toxic substances that once they get into you, and they come in as inhalants mainly through your nose, once they get into your system forms these what's called a mycotoxicosis, and it forms a response and kicks off a toxin that can be very deadly to you over the long haul.
At HealthyWay, we create a detailed mold remediation plan. Dr. Sparling shared his thoughts on the importance of a proper plan.
There should be a plan that they'll lay out for you to tell you what their process is to remediation. Of course, if there's any sheetrock that's involved, it has to come out up to a certain level because that's like a number one source of continued mold growth is that kind of a product. But there are numerous building products that are more susceptible to increasing mold growth and holding on to it than others. And so that would be one of the main things that you would look for in the remediation plan. Are they taking things out? Are they removing things? Are they getting rid of wherever they can any exposure where the mold could be that's associated wherever the water level was, of course. And then, because it can get into the air, you also have to wipe down things, wipe down walls, and there are certain products, of course, that are better than others for doing that. But that would be the other thing that I would look for, is to make sure that they're doing a complete assessment of the whole inside of your house.
Unfortunately, all mold remediation companies are not created equal.
There are people that say they are capable of doing this work but don't really understand the scope of what needs to be done so that it's done properly, because it's what's left behind that becomes significant. Gets up into the air, gets circulated throughout the house. And one of the problems with it is you don't smell it, you don't even know it's there sometimes, but you continue to get exposed. So yes, do you have exposure? Measure that. Remediate properly. I can't emphasize that enough. That's the most significant thing, is get the mold out of your environment, and then of course try and assess your health-related issues and then deal with those afterwards.
Dr. Sparling gave us his recommendation of what to do when there's even the remotest possibility of mold.
The first thing that anyone should do, of course, is to contact somebody like a reputable company like HealthyWay and Robert Lanfranc, have them come in, do an assessment, are you exposed? And then the next thing is, if you are exposed, are you one of those that's going to experience some health issues?
It's imperative that the mold treatment plan calls for a post-test or a clearance test.
Well, they have to do a sampling afterwards. And so if the sampling is not clear afterwards, then you know that you're still dealing with a mold-related issue.
Based on his research of mold treatment and HealthyWay, Dr. Sparling related a personal story concerning his son.
As a matter of fact, he's helped me with my son, moved into a new apartment. We found out that the people that said they remediated properly, and I said, I told my son, I said, no, you're not moving into that apartment until I know, because it was in an area in Highlands that had been affected by the storm Sandy. There was water, and you know, the people that were about to move him in said everything's fine, we've had it remediated, and I said, well, I don't believe you. And that's just because of my experience, in which case I asked Robert if he would look into it further. He said he certainly would. He went down there, found out that it was not remediated properly. It needed more work, and there were still some levels that were out of the normal range of mold. And my son had a couple of roommates that he was moving in with that was very thankful that we went forward. Of course, the landlord was not happy with my decision because they were about to move in, and I said, hold it. They're not going anywhere. I found out that this was not handled properly. Of course, he said, yes, it was. I paid for it. And I said, well, no, it isn't. And we have the documentation to support it. So that's, you know, that's the other way that Robert and I have worked going forward. And I'm really thankful because I already know that my son has been exposed and has had problems. And I certainly was not willing to throw him back into the fray again to experience more of that.
I trust that you found this information valuable and will aid you in making a wise decision about the handling of your problem. We at HealthyWay believe that a well-informed customer is our best customer. Thanks again, and we look forward to being of service.